Good morning, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of Give Us Five, the True Growth podcast, where we feature accomplished leaders. And today we are so blessed to have Amy Folan, who happens to be the athletic director at Central Michigan University. Fire up, Chips. Good morning, Amy. Welcome, and thank you so much for being with us.
Fire up chips. Glad to be here, Bob. Thanks for having me and really appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Well, we're going to get started. And so the first question is a pretty simple question, obvious question. Why? Why did you select a career in athletics and, more important, leadership at the highest level in athletics? What drew you to this profession?
Well, I think it might have selected me, and I somewhat tease my parents because they're both Irish Catholic. My dad immigrated in second grade. My mom's grandmother immigrated, and they always said education was everything, but they love sports. And they didn't think they're both the oldest of six, and they thought they could have no kids. And so when they were pregnant with me, my dad was at the University of Maine Orono, and they were so excited that they actually read me books, and I listened to UMaine hockey games or football games or what was ever on. So even before I was born, they were reading books to me and listening to sports. I don't know if I had a choice to do anything but be a student athlete and spend my life in athletics. So, and my family growing up, like they just were always competitive. I think being part of big families, entertainment, whether we played ice hockey in Maine or you're playing soccer or wiffle ball, like everything was a competition. So I think I was just brought up in an environment that was very conducive to athletics and the lessons that are learned through life and that we shared as a family as entertainment.
That's great. Well, there's a long list of qualities, attributes that leaders have. I wonder if you might share 3 to 5 of the ones that are really important to you, the ones that you practice regularly.
Yeah, well, I think again, it kind of comes from your family, right? So your parents bring you up and you kind of get shaped. And my mom would say, it's actions, not words. And a good friend of ours, Lawson Magruder, he'd say, his dad would say, deeds, not words, son. So I think you can say a lot of things, but what you do is what really comes through, and talk is cheap, but what you actually put into practice is what shows what you're made of. So I think that, give credit to my mom. I think over professional career, which is similar to the first one, but trust, and that's defined as what you say is what you do. So I also think if you say things and it's not how you follow through and not what you're doing, just be honest. If you can't do things, you got to say, I can't do it. And here's why. And if you can do things, but then at least you can trust that person, you know where you stand, and that their words are aligned with their actions. So I think it's maybe more what you do than what you say, but communication is important too. So I think it's making sure those are aligned.
Well, thank you very much. You've had a very, very successful career. You're one of, I believe, 57 women ADs at Division I schools. I think that's the right number. But anyway, is there any one achievement or accomplishment that you really hold dear that kind of stands out that you look back and you say, that was my moment?
I've been fortunate to be at some great places, student athlete at UConn, University of Georgia grad school, and an employee in Texas, the NCAA. But I always get most excited about what people around me do. So, seeing student athletes win national championships, even our soccer program was great at UConn, but it really is for me. It's sometimes also people that I've worked with or for. And maybe the ones that you hire and you help develop is where I find the most like, some of them are leading compliance at Texas and leading the foundation at Texas and leading athletics at the highest level at Michigan. So I think for me, it's kind of my team and people and what they do. I mean, I think you celebrate the successes. I remember being really young, played soccer when I was 4, and you scored a goal, and everybody gets excited, and I more get excitement from the people around me, what they do. So I think that's probably athletics too, like student athletes, seeing them succeed in life on the field, get through adversity. Sometimes even when they stumble, when they get on the other side, and they even find success that they ran into some barriers. Like I actually enjoy others around me being successful more than I enjoy any accolades I receive personally.
That is definitely the mark of a great leader, Amy. Thanks so much. Um, what are 3 or so tips that you might have for a young person aspiring to be a leader?
Yeah, I think it's working for good people, working for and with good people. Um, I've been fortunate. I've worked at some of the best places, but you can see at times when it's always people wherever you are. So I don't think it always is the brand. It's sometimes, and that's easier said than done. You know, those interview processes are great, but they're so short and they're so superficial. You can't really tell substantively what you have. But I also think there's places and brands where birds of a feather flock together. So you know that the concentration, and we're all going to have adversity through life. So, but I do think it's making sure you have a good core of people that you work for and with. And I think how you treat anyone is how you treat everyone. You know, I think some people try to play up to power or think this will matter, and they think they figured out the game. And I think it really, you know, sometimes I just was on a panel this week, and they ask about big donors and big gifts, and I say, hey, the most important gifts are the 0 to 100 and getting people involved and getting in. You don't end up giving $1 million gifts and give the big gifts. And a lot of times, the millionaires and billionaires' best friends are the people that are sometimes not giving you as much money. Like, it's not trying to be, people think they're strategic and they think, oh, this is where this really happens. And I'm just going to take care of the people with more power and more prestige. And I really think that that's short sighted. And I think the world is about people and it's small. And I think it comes through authentically who you are. So, how you treat anybody is how you treat everybody. And I think that being mindful of that. And then I think the last one is just you got to be yourself. So DeLoss Dodds was AD for 32 years at Texas, and I would, you know, wanted to be an AD and he knew it, and I would study, and he goes, hey, like, he's like, I think it's great. And I do think you learn from other people, but he's like, don't forget, like, you got to be you. Like, I'm not him. He's not me. You know, Crystal Conte is great. We're all different. And I think you have to learn from everybody and you have to learn lessons. But at the end of the day, you have to take your own experiences and be yourself, because that's what, at the end of the day, who you are. And you'll be miserable and everybody else will be miserable. So I do think you learn and you gain insights and knowledge, but you got to stay true to who you are, or it's not going to work.
That's great. Yeah, yeah. Applause for authentic leadership for sure. Um, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this question. What would you tell young women today who aspire to lead? What kind of tips would you give them?
Well, I mean, I think it's a challenge for everybody, right? Like, I think it's hard, male, female, race, religion, creed. But I think that's what's great. We just talk about being your authentic self, like with all those disparate experiences and what you pull upon in your background and bringing that all together is where we get the best results as teams. But sometimes it is different. So you need to know, like, it's different. But I think the biggest thing is not to use it as a crutch. Like, there'll be adversity no matter who you are and what your life experiences are. And I think you need to know it's different and you need to navigate differently. It was interesting at Texas. My boss, Chris Del Conte, looked at me one day and he was doing something and he looked at me, he goes, you can't do it this way. And I looked at him and I smiled back and I'm like, you're right. And I said, I have to do it my way. We were talking authentic. And he has daughters and a wife. And I think he realized, he's like, I go about it this way. You have to go about it differently. And he just realized there's some societal things that are different. And I don't even know if I had quantified it, but I think to realize that everybody goes through that. So you need to know it's sometimes different and you need to navigate that, but you've probably been doing it your whole life. And then you also need to know that you can really hurt yourself if you make it a crutch and go, well, it's just harder for me and it's this and it's different. You got to realize it's different for everybody. You've got to learn how what got you where you are may not get you to the next place. You got to continually adapt, assess, and being yourself. And then you just realize, like, life's hard sometimes and you just got to keep getting back up and get at it. So it is different at times and you need to know that. But the thing that's common and is the same is it's hard, you know, for everybody. And so you just got to not make excuses and crutches, and you got to figure out what, even if it is harder, how you still going to get it done.
Thank you. What a great answer. That's a great answer. Well, we got time for one more. And as a True Growth alum, I need to ask you, can you share your life purpose and your five values with us?
Yeah, I can. And actually, like, I cannot say enough about this program. When I had to go to this program, I will tell you, my boss had come in and he said, hey, we have a former track athlete who, you know, now I know and love. It's been years. I think this is like 2009. And DeLoss knew he'd probably be retiring from Texas. It wasn't going to be tomorrow, but he knew he was getting to the end of his career and he wanted a transition plan. But he would constantly throw big projects because I always said I wanted to be an AD. And I realized the best thing with me is he'd play offense. So I would always be, he'd give me these big projects. And Bird came in and pitched this True Growth program. And I thought, oh my God, they are sending me off to this. Like, this is a few days. I don't have time for this. This is some good old boy stuff. DeLoss is just trying to keep me busy. And I couldn't have been more wrong. Like it was transformative. And you do a lot of leadership things. And what I always tell people is you go to a lot of places and you learn technical functional skills. But I think this program really helps you find your authentic self and really intentionally. And so it applies to everybody. It doesn't matter, butcher, baker, candlestick maker. And I also think there's a time where they talk about going through crucibles, life crucibles. I think some people go through those very early in their life and have a lot of adversity. And some people, it's more advantageous when you've gone through some life so you know really who you are and not what shapes around you, like what you stand for. But mine was do my best, serve others, and pass it on. And that's been since 2009. And I can recite it like clockwork because I think the program really resonated with me. And then my top values were integrity, family, excellence, continuous learning, and legacy. And in that order. And I think I had some crucibles where like I struggled with family above integrity, but I've had some integrity decisions with family. So then I realized that would go down, but excellence, after family and doing things right. Just try to do anything at a high level wherever you are, be it Connecticut, Georgia, NCA, Texas, CMU. And so yeah, like I really think I owe a lot to the program, and I think it's been pivotal, and I would recommend it for any leader. And I think any person. I think it just really helps you. It helps you on the professional and personal side. I do think it helps you be your authentic self because you have your compass, and when you've got to make decisions, and it's actually stood a lot of time. So I try to revisit it. When you go through, and do you have enough crucibles or life experience? And I think as you go through some crucibles, it helps you really figure out like what's the most important and how are you going to make those decisions. So yeah, I think it's incredible, and just really grateful for the opportunity to have it in my life.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for taking the time, Amy, to be with us today. We really, really appreciate it. And those that listen to this are going to pick up on the great points that you pointed out. So,
Well, Bob, anything for a parent of two CMU students, like anybody with great parenting, and then Lawson Magruder and Bird Baggett, great UT alums too. So it's all about people, I said, and I'm fortunate that some great people keep circling back into my life.
thank you so much. Take care of yourself and good luck. Fire up, Chips.
Fire up chips.